All right, let's go to Wall Street now. The closing bell rang just moments ago. The Dow down on fresh fears over tariffs as a big tech sell-off gains momentum. So let's take a look at our interactive stock market heat map. This is brought to you by FinViz. This is showing the top 500 stocks. It is a sea of red today, fueling the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell telling the Economic Club of Chicago tariffs came in much larger than anticipated, and they will lead to higher inflation. So let's take a listen.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Tariffs are highly likely to generate at least a temporary rise in inflation. The inflationary effects could also be more persistent.
CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joining us now to walk us through what we just heard from Powell and how the markets are responding. Hi, Kelly.
Hey there, Jules. Okay, so kind of three takeaways for me from Fed Chair Powell. One, the sound that you just played, the fact that he said inflation could be persistent. It's not the first time that we have heard him say this, but I want to emphasize Fed Chair Powell chooses his words very carefully. He's very temperate. And so to now hear him start to use that word regularly is a bit of why you saw the markets react so viscerally when he started speaking. The second thing is Powell is a data guy. Okay, he and the Fed, they are driven by data. And every time I have gone there and I have posed questions to him, he said, look, we have to wait for the data. Today, he said that the data from the first quarter shows that economic growth is slowing down. And that, I think, also caused a little bit of anxiety among investors. And then the final thing is that there is a possibility for stagflation. And I say that because he said, quote, we may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. The Fed's two mandates are keeping inflation in check and keeping the labor market and economic growth healthy. When you have those two at odds, that means stagflation. And I just want to play a little bit of sound and when he kind of spelled that out for us.
The administration is, as I mentioned in my remarks, is implementing significant policy changes, and particularly trade now is the focus. And the effects of that are likely to move us away from our goals. So unemployment is likely to go up as the economy slows in all likelihood, and inflation is likely to go up as tariffs find their way, and some part of those tariffs come to be paid by the public.
So, Jules, I mean, you listen to that, you can kind of understand why the market sold off. In fact, at 1:30 p.m. when Fed Chair Powell started speaking, if you looked at the Dow, it went like this. Now, we finished off session lows, but just hearing him say so much uncertainty that we're moving away from their goals potentially with the impact of tariffs spurred a lot of concern.
Yeah, you're used to his rhetoric and his messages, and his tone has certainly changed. We're also watching a big tech drop in the market. So we're talking about AI giant NVIDIA. It sank more than 8%. So what's going on there?
So NVIDIA is an important one, right? It drives AI. It's also a big driver of your 401k because it's a big driver of the S&P 500. And a lot of our 401ks are invested in index funds that track the S&P. So what happened here is NVIDIA announced that they are going to take a hit of $5.5 billion in this quarter. The reason is because of new export controls on the chips that they designed specifically to sell to China to satisfy the restrictions that were put in place under the Biden administration. So what this all means is that the current administration, the Trump administration, came to NVIDIA last week and they said, look, you're going to have to apply for a license if you want to sell any of these chips to China. Jules, normally none of those licenses are ever granted, and so this is an escalation in the tit-for-tat trade war. What it also means for NVIDIA, which is why the stock is dropping, is that they are going to have a hard time capitalizing on a market that they draw a significant amount of their revenue from, Jules.
All right, good information. Kelly O'Grady. Kelly, thank you.